Joining me this evening, I am joined by Justice Sodhi, retired from the Delhi High Court. Justice Sodhi, of course, heard two crucial cases, the Jessica Lal case and also the Priyadarshini Mattu case. He gave landmark verdicts in both those cases. Thank you for joining us, Justice Sodhi. I am also joined by Tavleen Singh, columnist and author. I am joined by Vinod Sharma, political editor of the Hindustan Times. But of course, he is here tonight in another role because he is a one man who was then with you and I, who along with Prabha Dutt and other journalists had gone to the Supreme Court asking for permission to interview convicted murderers, Billa and Ranga, on death row. The Supreme Court granted them permission. That interview was published. I'm also joined by Karna Nandi, Supreme Court advocate, and Sohail Seth, again, well, opinion maker and managing editor of Counselage. But first, looking at the larger issue, just some of the statistics I'd like to look at today on how many cases are actually pending. We know that in the end of last year, 31,000 rape cases were pending in lower courts around the country. 31,000 rape cases. What's the conviction rate in those rape cases? The conviction rate is between 25 to 22%. So imagine the stories behind each of these cases. And I'm starting tonight. I'm joined by a young girl. I'm calling her Zahira. That's not her real name, but her case became known in Uttar Pradesh and Lucknow as the Ashiana case. Zahira has been waiting for justice for over 10 years. She was gang raped when she was just 13. The accused is out. He's out on bail. He's got married while she's struggling to make some kind of life for herself. Zahira ji, आज आप क्या कहना चाहेंगी जब आप देख रहे हैं कि इतना कि निर्भय की मां ने कहा है कि हमारा क्या होगा, ये क्यों है कि हमारा केस में अभी तक जस्टिस नहीं हुआ है, हमारा अपील सुप्रीम कोर्ट में पेंडिंग है, जबकि उनका केस में वर्डिक्ट है। आपका केस में ट्रायल भी अभी शुरू हुआ है 10 साल के बाद। आप क्या कहना चाहेंगी?
हमारा भी ट्रायल बिल्कुल नहीं शुरू हुआ है और 10 साल से तो हम इसी में लगातार उम्मीद में वो कर रहे हैं कि मुझे इंसाफ मिलेगा। और अपराध तो आजाद से घूम रहे हैं और वो बिल्कुल ट्राई अभी तक नहीं शुरू हुई है उसमें। और इससे जो अपराध करने वाले को लगता है कि उसके अंदर डर नहीं पैदा होता है और डर पैदा करने के लिए उसको इस तरह से अपराध को छूट नहीं देना चाहिए जिससे उसका हौसला बुलंद हो जाए।
मधु जी, और इसमें ये भी बात है कि जो अक्यूज्ड है वो पॉलिटिकल फैमिली से है, उनकी शादी भी हो गई है और इनके लिए ये जो सर्वाइवर्स हैं इनके लिए इनके साथ कौन देता है?
इसमें अभी तक एक्यूज्ड की उम्र का फैसला नहीं हो पा रहा है कि वो क्राइम के समय में बालिग था कि नाबालिग था। 2 बार जुवेनाइल बोर्ड ने ये फैसला सुना दिया कि वो क्राइम के समय बालिग था, लेकिन हर बार एक्यूज्ड क्योंकि पॉलिटिकल फैमिली का है, बहुत इन्फ्लुएंशियल है, बहुत पैसे वाला है, बहुत बड़े बड़े वकील कर सकता है, वो हर बार हर वर्डिक्ट के खिलाफ वो अपील में चला गया है और अभी भी वो अपील मतलब डिसाइड नहीं हो पाई है। और अभी 11 मार्च को जजमेंट रिजर्व हो गया उस अपील के लिए। अब हम लोग देखते हैं कि उसमें क्या होता है और हम लोग को इंतजार है कि कब ये ट्रायल शुरू होगा।
तो ज़ाहिरा जी, जब आप सुनते हैं कि निर्भय केस में वर्डिक्ट आ गया है, क्या आप सोचते हैं कि ऐसे हर केस में क्यों नहीं है, कि ऐसे क्यों है कि सिर्फ जो केस में मीडिया अटेंशन हो उसमें कुछ रिजल्ट होता है, उसमें कुछ वर्डिक्ट आता है? क्या आप सोचते हैं कि पूरा जो माइंडसेट, जो जुडिशरी का माइंडसेट है, जो पुलिस का माइंडसेट है, एवरी रेप केस मस्ट बी सीन एज इक्वल, कि ये आपके साथ ये नाइंसाफी क्यों हो रही है?
क्योंकि वो पैसे वाला है इसीलिए शायद हो रही है, लेकिन ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए। कानून में इस तरह से नहीं लिखा गया है कि वो बड़े लोग का ही सिर्फ खाली देखा जाए। कानून में ये लिखा गया है कि कोई बड़ा ना कोई छोटा, सबके लिए कानून एक समान है। फिर भी क्यों मौका दिया जा रहा है? बार बार तो यही एक बार फैसला होता है फिर दोबारा उसको अपील भी इतनी जल्दी कर लेते हैं। बार बार तो अपील ही करते हैं और इससे आगे नहीं बढ़ता है अपील करने से, क्योंकि पीछे चला जाता है।
थैंक यू ज़ाहिरा जी कि आज आप ने हौसला करके आज आप आए हमारे साथ. थैंक यू ज़ाहिरा जी, थैंक यू मधु जी फॉर जॉइनिंग अस. Justice Sodhi, as a judge, do you feel that the judiciary has failed in cases like this, has failed a young girl like Zahira? It's not her real name, but has failed a young girl like Zahira who was gang raped when she was just 13 years old. She's just 23 now.
There's no doubt about it that the judiciary has failed, and I'm so sorry to say that decision making is so poor, and it's so time consuming and so pitiful that even simple matters of rape, where you have a witness who is alive and ready to testify, the trial doesn't commence for 10 years. Now this is ridiculous. And nobody can say that the reason is because we don't have enough judges, or we don't have, the output is so miserable that I don't think the judges are doing their job.
The judges aren't doing their job. It's various departments which may not be doing their job. We talked about what happened in Parliament today. Yet these issues, why is it that we never see in Parliament this fact discussed, that 31,000 rape cases are pending in lower courts? The fact that you do have a case when 10 years the trial hasn't even started. We get outraged over the insignificant things. The real issues don't outrage us.
Our parliamentarians do.
Our parliamentarians.
And they should be ashamed of themselves. And I don't care if this leads to a privilege motion. What they should have asked for is a special session of Parliament to discuss why so many rape cases take so long. That would have been a meaningful thing. Not to demand the most ludicrous thing of all, which is that, we're going to have the film banned all over the world. For a start, that's not possible. Secondly, it's a stupid demand. In this age, you can still see it. And thirdly, what damages the image of India is the rape, not the film. And so, I today have been appalled by the statements that I've heard from the government. And, they should really be ashamed of themselves, and they should actually compensate the people of India. Because, we talked about, a new kind of policy with this government. Let them compensate by ordering a special session of Parliament to discuss why the justice system works like this in cases of rape.
I'm just going to we're just going to play out what Nirbhaya's mother actually said, because she made an appeal to the new government. She made the point that this was a campaign slogan, that it's enough of rapes of women, but what has actually changed? Let's just hear that.
कोई फैसला होने में 10 साल लग जाता है. फांसी तो सुना दी जाती है कि नहीं, कोर्ट से फांसी हो गई, और उसको फैसले देने में, फांसी देने में 10 साल लगता है. होता क्या है कि ये तो इतना साल जेल में काट चुका, तो अब इसको उम्र कैद में बदल दो. तो इसका जिम्मेवार कौन है? कोर्ट है या विक्टिम है? हम हैं. हम क्यों इसकी सजा भुगते? जब आप 10 साल फैसले देने में लगा रहे हो तो इसके जिम्मेवार आप हो, हम नहीं है. हमें तो इंसाफ चाहिए. अगर फांसी है तो फांसी चाहिए.
आशा जी का बिल्कुल ठीक कहना है.
वो कह रहा है, वो एक तरह से समाज को चैलेंज दे रहा है, न्याय प्रणाली को चैलेंज दे रहा है. कह रहा है, एक तरफ तो कह रहा है कि अगर हम लोगों को फांसी हो जाती है तो महिलाओं को खतरा हो जाएगा. लेकिन मैं ये कहना चाहती हूं कि उसने क्यों उसको जान मार दिया? इस घटना को कह रहा है कि दुर्घटना है. एक बच्ची की आंत तक नोच के खा गया और कह रहा है कि दुर्घटना है. कह रहा है हमको अगर फांसी हो जाती है तो बच्चियों के लिए खतरा है. लेकिन मैं तो ये दावे के साथ कह रही कि अगर इस केस में, ऐसे बर्बरता वाली केस में अगर इनको फांसी नहीं होती है तो आगे समाज में आग लग जाएगी. खाने की प्लेट की तरह लोग इस्तेमाल करेंगे और फेंकेंगे. तो हम तो यही कहना चाहेंगे कि आज भी अपने प्रशासन से, अपने सरकार से, अपने न्याय प्रणाली से कि अब बहुत हो गया, बहुत भाषण हो गया, बहुत हो गया. आप कम से कम इस मुद्दे को ठोस कदम दीजिए, ठोस काम कीजिए इस पे, और इसको कहीं इंजाम तक पहुंचाइए. अगर आप चाहते हैं, कहते हैं कि नहीं बहुत हो गया महिलाओं के साथ बलात्कार, तो अब इसको रोकिए, इस पे ठोस कदम उठाइए. कोई सब भाषण देता है, कोई ठोस कदम नहीं उठाता है. लेकिन आज एक जेल में बैठा हुआ मुजरिम सबको चैलेंज कर रहा है महिलाओं को चैलेंज कर रहा है कि अगर तुम 9 बजे निकलते हो तो हम ऐसे करेंगे। उसकी क्या मजाल, अगर उसको समय रहते उसकी सजा हुई होती, उसको फांसी सजा हुई होती, तो हमारे समाज में ऐसा होता नहीं और वो ऐसा बोलता नहीं। कानून ऐसे लोगों के मन से कानून का खौफ उठ गया है
जी।
किसी के मन में कोई कानून का खौफ नहीं है। आज उसकी हमारे देश में हजारों लड़कियां रोज 4 न्यूज सामने आ रहे हैं। क्या हम एक घर में रोटी बनाने वाली महिला 4 केस रोज पढ़ रहे हैं? क्या जो कुर्सी पे बैठे हैं, हमारी सरकार बैठी है, हमारी प्रशासन बैठा है, हमारा न्याय उनको नहीं दिखता है
जी?
कैसे रोज होती हैं। लेकिन इन 3 साल में मैं पूछती हूँ कि कौन सा रेप केस में एक भी मुजरिम को सजा हुई है, एक भी मुजरिम को फांसी हुआ है?
If I can go across to Javed Akhtar now, Javed Saab, you were in Parliament today. You spoke very strongly on the issues raised in this documentary, and you made the point that what the rapist actually said in the documentary echoes the mindset of many men in India today. And by actually just banning the documentary and talking about it impacting tourism, talking about it being an international conspiracy to defame India, we are not looking at the key issues of why rapes are happening in India, what are prevention measures that can be done, what can we do about the number of rape cases and the people who are just waiting for their trials to be heard. What would you like to say today, sir?
No, I can understand the kind of outrage and anger people are feeling because this documentary or the talk of this documentary reminds them of something which was really very hurting and which had disturbed and angered the whole nation. But at this moment the anger that has risen is, I suppose, a bit misplaced. You know, we are angry that such a heinous crime was committed. Understandable. We are angry that this man is yet sitting in the jail waiting for the final verdict and ultimately waiting for the punishment that he very well deserves. It is understandable. But why are we so upset about the documentary? I mean, this is not going to distort Indian image in the world. That's not possible. Everybody knows that this crime took place. Now, what is disturbing and what is to be thought about, that what this rapist, this creature that is worse than an animal, is saying, these are the things that I have heard from people who consider themselves the guardians of morality of the societies, the people who think that they are the protectors of a tradition and a parampara and civilization. They make same kind of arguments against women what this rapist is doing. As a matter of fact, this rapist is showing a kind of a mirror to those people, but unintentionally, that you and the rapist are in a way on the same page as far as thinking about the women is concerned. So you better think about it. You review your point of view. I think this is the thing that has to be taken from the documentary. That is it not shocking that what this rapist is saying, he is blaming the victim. He is saying that women should not wear such kind of clothes, women should not be make themselves vulnerable by being at certain places, by being late out of their houses late in the night and so on. I have heard these things from certain people who think that they are very respectable and very nice and decent people, virtuous people.
In fact, people who may be sitting next to you in the benches of Parliament, people who may be sitting next to the benches of Parliament, you remember Mulayam Singh Yadav making that statement, the Shakti Mills case, that their boys will be boys, mistakes happen. So he'll say, come in on that aspect, because I think again just the discussion focus also is about the fact that we are ignoring the key issue. We tend to outrage industry.
What we should take from the documentary,
yes,
what we have to take from the documentary, that show it to the society that is how people who are distorted, people who are criminals, people who are warped, sick, think like that about women. And if you do that, then you better think about yourself and do some introspection. By looking at this rapist on the screen, nobody is going to agree with him.
So
And as a matter of fact,
yes.
I'm sure that many people will be ashamed that they share some ideas with this rapist, and they will have to review themselves.
Exactly. I think the filmmaker has made the point that the documentary is meant more to shame, to show a mirror rather than to justify. Sohail said, come in. Your
Yeah.
views.
My view is very simple. You know, this country is a country living in denial most of the time. We have a ridiculously abysmal judiciary. Corona mentioned capable judges. I think amongst capable judges, we have an enormous shortage. We have corruption in the judiciary at various levels. A lot has been written about it. We have no systems of governance in place qua the criminal justice system. And we are getting angry about a documentary. We should be angry about the fact that the Supreme Court didn't have time to listen to one hearing in 1 year on a case that drew global attention, and that shamed India. So we are constantly we are passing the buck, as it were, as if this documentary will unfold and yield an India that no one knows. For God's sake, let's be real. When you stop reporting crime, does crime reduce? When you stop showing crime in films, does crime reduce? I mean, the reality is, let's be men and let's face up to the realities that exist in India today. We have loutish behavior in our parliamentarians. We have members of parliament who are scourges on humanity, who have used the most despicable language against women. Mulayam Singh Yadav, as you rightly said earlier, says ki ladke hain, galtiyan ho jati hain, and you are venerating these kind of guys, and then you object in parliament to a simple documentary that's being telecast. Ban rape, don't ban cinema or ban expression. But the reality is, we love getting angry over trivia. Half the jokers who haven't read Satanic Verses went out to burn books and effigies of Salman Rushdie, and this is exactly what we're doing.
Exactly.
I believe we need this documentary telecast. We need to shame our justice system. We need to shame the police. We need to shame the trial court. We need to shame ourselves. And we need to shame our parliamentarians who on December 16, 2013 stood by India because India was exploding. And those 4 guys who should have been either hanged or given life imprisonment, I'm not one either for death sentence or against it, but these people are going scot-free, and we as a country are exploding over a BBC documentary which we haven't even seen. That is the tragedy.
I'm actually going to, because the filmmaker was in our studio a short while ago. She's actually left the country tonight because she's been told by her lawyer that she may be arrested. An independent filmmaker who came to India, who spent the last 2 years making a film, she said, because she was so moved by the protests that erupted. She said she's seen no reaction. She's never seen a reaction like that in any other country in the world. In fact, she makes the point that rapes happen across the world. It's not India specific, but she was moved by the spontaneous protests and the fact that this had become part of the mainstream. Young men and women were out protesting. She's left India tonight under fear of arrest. Before she left, she spoke on our program and made an appeal to the Prime Minister. She said, I've met you, Mr. Prime Minister, when I had come to Gujarat. My film inaugurated a festival of yours. What you're doing today will actually damage tourism much more than reporting about rape. Let's just hear an excerpt of what she said.
I'm in deep pain because this is going to backfire. And I beg you, in fact, Prime Minister Modi, I appeal to you, please, I appeal to you. You and I met at a festival in Gujarat when you were the Chief Minister there, and my film West is West opened that festival. And we met then. I appeal to you, Prime Minister, do not allow this to get out of hand, because it is getting out of hand. Countries around the world will very soon be saying, how dare India ban a documentary that is in the public interest. I urge you to see the film as soon as possible. I urge the Home Secretary to see the film. And I urge everyone, including the Times Group, who is on some rabid campaign, I know not why, please see the film. This is a global campaign. It's not about India. It's not about your tourism. It's not about pointing fingers. It was actually intended to be about elevating you. And in every piece of publicity I have done on this film, I have said, the first thing I have said is, I came because of admiration for India. I came because India was leading the world by example, was fighting for me. Please don't break that It's a very precious thing. Don't now make people point fingers at you and say, what on earth are you doing? Banning a film that will change attitudes and help women the world over. Please reconsider. Just see the film, watch the film, and then discuss it.
Vinod Sharma also joining us this evening. And Vinod Sharma, of course, is the man who, along with many other journalists, including Prabha Dutt, had gone to court for the right to interview Billa and Ranga. When we talk about media censorship today, Vinod Sharma, many years later, do you feel amused seeing the current outrage that is going on? How, when you went to interview Billa and Ranga, were you asked the same questions? Why are you glorifying the rapist? Why are you talking to him? Is it about giving him a point of view, or is it about trying to understand perhaps what would lead anyone to commit such a heinous crime?
I mean, to understand why we went there, you should know what he told us. I mean, Ranga refused to speak, but Billa spoke to Barkha Dutt and me. Barkha Dutt was Prabha was the mover of the petition, and we associated ourselves with that petition. Just two journalists, two of us were there, and we went and accessed him in the death row. So first of all, I want to say that in this whole controversy, blame is sought to be apportioned to the Ministry of Home Affairs and to the jail authorities, and rightly so. They had no business to give permission directly, access to a man who was in judicial custody. He was in custody of the court. Only the court had the authority to give permission. That was the procedural part. But insofar as interviewing Billa was concerned, he admitted to all the other murders that he was accused of. And he said he was innocent in the Billa and Ranga, in the Chopra Chandran murder case. And this was a twin murder together with the rape, which had sent shivers down the spine of urban India.
So when you printed him saying he was innocent, that must have been...
No, he claimed innocence.
Yes.
He claimed innocence, and we published it. And in fact, it was at that time seen as an enterprising journalism, that there were journalists who took the court's permission and accessed this man. Now, may I go a little further? In this country, you know, we have seen Charles Sobraj used to charge money for giving interviews. And when he broke the jail and ran away, the Tihar jail, the very Tihar jail, you know, investigation started. You know, there were some journalists who had access to him and all that. No, there was those journalists who were attempting a book on him, you know. You get my point? Similarly, Natwar Lal, he has been celebrated even in films. You see, you know, what I am saying, Phula Devi. So what I am trying to say is that when there is reportage on these persons, you get to understand the worst case scenario which goes into these kind of heinous crimes. That what is the mindset which is going into it. You know, in fact, these reports should be used by psychologists, sociologists, politicians, policy makers to really attack the problem where it lies.